Welcome to another indie dev showcase here on the channel. Every week I recap 6 of the many games that we play for our indie nights, be them demos or press key submissions. And if you are working on a game and would like to be in a future piece, please get in touch. We are beginning with the game Outpost Delta, which I got a press key for, and this is a Metroidvania style game where we are trying to explore, Outpost Delta that has been attacked, and it's up to us to save the day. Now, the key thing about this one is that the game space is very much non-linear, or it tries to be. Each quote-unquote stage is very wide, and your job is to explore looking to find various teleporters and basically restore functions of the space station, which will then let you go further in and do more there. The problem is that everything about this game is made to be very cumbersome and very hard to get around. Your minimap doesn't really show you where you need to go or what things kind of work, and the game has an annoying habit of letting you open up a door or hit a switch, and then not telling you what said switch did. So you have to backtrack and figure out what thing did it open, to then do another thing, and rinse and repeat. Now, as you can see, enemies can be very bullet spongy or laser spongy. And the game's aesthetic, while there is a lot of detail in this pixel art, it's also, I think, way too busy. And after about 40 minutes of playing this, my eyes were starting to bother me, just because of so much detail that's happening. So with that said, while I do like the fact that the game kind of lets you explore, it seems like there's a lot of things to do in it. It is one of those cases where I don't think enough has been done to the onboarding and general UI UX to make it an enjoyable Metroidvania style experience. Up now, we turn to Penko Park. This was a game we got a press key for, and it's from the makers of the game Wonder Doctor. That was kind of almost like a narrative style, low stakes, like a trauma center kind of game. And with Penko Park that was released last year, they've turned their attentions to, Pokemon Snap. Or I guess non-copyright infringing Pokemon Snap. Your mission is to explore the remnants of Penko Park with your trusty guide down there, while taking photos of the various wildlife. Now, as with games like Pokemon Snap, your objective isn't just to photograph them, but to photograph them in different states and conditions. And the game's progression is set up that as you complete your photo assignments, you'll gain stickers, and these stickers in turn can be used with a persistent element to unlock new areas, upgrades, tools, etc. And it's a good way of kind of giving a little bit more long-form goal to this act of just collecting photos of these creatures. And the aesthetics, I think, have that cute feel to it. It has a similar look as Wonder Doctor, but these characters, I think, are far more animated, and there's a little bit more variety there. If I had any nitpicks for the game, is that this is very much a title for Pokemon Snap fans. If you're not into this kind of gameplay loop, or haven't heard of that series but have no interest in this, I don't think there's anything here that's going to change your mind. But for me, I did enjoy this one. I was a fan of the original Pokemon Snap, and maybe at some point I'll try the newest one. And if you are looking for kind of the indie version of that gameplay loop, then definitely check out Penko Park. Up now, we turn to Sword Slinger. This is a physics-driven puzzle game that is basically about you trying to eliminate goblins and monsters using your sword. So the key element of this one is that you control every aspect of throwing your sword. You choose how the angle is, what kind of spin, and your goal is, as you saw right there, get rid of the goblins given the sword. It kind of has almost like a golf kind of feel to it, where you're trying to set up these shots. And It's one of those games that the basic elements aren't that hard to figure out, but it does get more complicated and more involved as you play through it. And the game will reward you based on, how many throws it takes you, can you kill multiple enemies in a single hit, and additional challenges like that. As the game goes on, you unlock additional commands that you can attach, or actions you can attach to your little bar in the upper left there. And this begins to add kind of more of the complexity to the game, such as unlocking the ability to add additional actions, triggers. As you can see here, the first one you unlock is the ability to bounce, so that once it hits an object, it will then go in another velocity, or completely miss, as you saw right there. And this is one of those games that it's very much focused on this one singular mechanic. And if you're not a fan of it, the game is not going to work for you. But if you do enjoy this kind of, dialing it in style physics-based puzzle, then Sword Slinger, I think, is worth checking out. As I said, it's not the deepest game out there, but what it does really well. So with that, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we have 3 more games to look at for this spotlight. And if you'd like to hear more about my thoughts on design, then check out these books. For entry-level students, we have 20 Essential Games to Study, and then the Game Design Deep Dive series that takes an extensive look at different genres, with horror coming by the end of 2021. For our next game, we have 2 Parsecs from Earth. This was played with a press key, and this is an open-ended Metroidvania, where our key mechanic is that instead of you getting all the upgrades in a run, you have to choose, when you get to these specific stations, which upgrade you're going to get, and then the other one remains locked until you start a new game plus. Now, your mission is to basically collect all the, energy cells of your ship that you need in order to get off the mysterious planet that you're on. A planet that's made up of a whole lot of purple, as you can see right here. Now, this game is definitely on the challenging side. You die very quickly. I believe it's one-hit kills on just about everything in this space. And what's interesting from a level design standpoint is that the whole world is built to have multiple paths based on all the different variations that your quote-unquote build turns into based on what choices you make. And there are different endings, I believe, that go along with it. It's definitely a novel approach to this kind of Metroidvania gameplay, but it does have some issues. For one thing, the camera can make it a little bit hard to see incoming threats, especially when you're jumping from high up to go down. The game checkpoints when you get from one room to the next, but this is not a single screen game. Each room can be very huge with multiple paths and things that you need to do to get around. So it's very easy to die and then repeat several minutes of you trying to get around there. And if you're hoping for a lot of unique movement tech or things along those lines, this one does not have that, as your abilities that you can choose from are very much like Metroidvania staples, and you can't really do too much in terms of unique things with it. I like the concept of kind of an open-ended Metroidvania, but this one I think may be for the hardcore fans only, especially for those of you who don't mind kind of frustrating gameplay and crazy bugs trying to kill you right there. Unfortunately, this is one of those games that it becomes more and more annoying to get around, given how big the space is and how much you're going to need to backtrack to get to these various points and then re-explore and so on. And I did not have enough time to spend this game to get to New Game Plus, so if anyone did, I'm curious what your thoughts are on the game when you have, full abilities unlocked. For our next game, we have Dreadstar, The Quest for Revenge. This is a top-down shooter with a lot of kind of RPG elements built into the background. Kind of like a Tyrion or a top-down version of Jets and Guns in a weird way. So, our mission is to explore these sectors, deal with enemies, and of course get all the crystals and shiny gems we need to make our ship far more powerful on subsequent plays. After each mission, you're able to explore and decide where you want to go, and one of the big places will be the shop, where you can then decide to buy new ships, new weapons, modify your ships, and all that other great form of progression. The problem that Dreadstar has, from what I could see when I played the game, is that there is no change in how these missions play out. It's essentially just you're going to repeat the same things, grind for more gems, make your ship more powerful, rinse and repeat. And while we've seen this in, again, games like Tyrion and Jets and Guns, the level design and the enemy designs themselves don't necessarily afford, I think, that level of replayability. It all just is just you flying from bottom to top and blowing up everything in your way. And once your ship is powerful enough to do that, the game becomes increasingly repetitive because of it. I would have liked to have seen more missions, maybe not only be able to raise the difficulty, but change how these maps behave with it. It's a good idea, and if you are a fan of kind of the older shmup style games and you like having that very late progression element to it, then give Dreadstar a check. But unfortunately, I can think of other shmups that have been released lately that have really elevated this kind of design and have gone in different directions with it. For our final game of the spotlight this week, I guess I saved the most recognizable for last. This is, of course, Amnesia Rebirth. And we did get a press key to check this one out. And for those of you who are longtime fans of mine, you know that I'm not a huge fan of the Amnesia franchise. It came out during kind of the dearth of horror games in the AAA space, and the franchise blew up along with Five Nights and Outlast, and a lot of the older, or just like that kind of style of horror games. And for me, I'm not a huge fan of it. So Amnesia Rebirth is, well, it's more Amnesia. You play a protagonist who has, as you can probably guess by the title, amnesia. She and her husband and team of researchers have mysteriously crashed while searching for an ancient temple. And she doesn't know why that happened. All she knows is that her family is missing, she is pregnant, and there are some strange things afoot. If you played the original Amnesia or A Machine for Pigs, then the gameplay loop should be very reminiscent to you. You'll be exploring these various set pieces, trying to solve a few puzzles here and there, and of course getting into scripted events and jump scares that can get you. And while you can be killed by these strange things that are out to get you, there is no real punishment. If you die, you'll simply just reappear right back where you were, probably a few feet behind it. Now, as with the previous games, and kind of with a lot of this style of indie horror, lighting and light sources are going to be the big thing. You of course have a canteen, you have matches, and you can light things up in the environment. But for the most part, the game still has that very annoying thing that making it hard to see is the primary challenge, as opposed to unique gameplay or puzzling situations. And I had the same problem with Rebirth that I did with the original Amnesia and with Outlast. That because your lighting sources or your light sources are consumable and finite, if you get stuck in a spot that you don't know what you're doing, you're going to burn through them, no pun intended, and then you're going to be left in the dark trying to figure out where the hell am I supposed to go, or what did I miss in order to solve a puzzle. And I got stuck basically right at the fort. And what ended up happening was I got frustrated with the game, and all sense of horror and tension and fear are gone. And I really am tired of kind of consumable quality of life features in games like this. So ultimately with Amnesia Rebirth, this is very much that same situation as the previous games. If you did not like Amnesia or Outlast or this style of indie horror, Amnesia Rebirth is not going to do a damn thing for you. If you were a huge fan and you've gotten used to kind of the playing this game with lights as bright as possible and kind of the more focus on horror adjacent as opposed to horror happening to you right at this very moment, then you'll probably enjoy this one. But for me, I spent way too long fumbling in the dark and forgot why I wanted to play this game. So I just stopped playing it. With that said, we're going to wrap up this week's Spotlight here. I would like to thank all the developers who submitted games. You'll find links to their titles in the description down below. If you're new, be sure to check out our Discord and Patreon, especially if you'd like to support the channel or just hang out. Come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where is in the art and science of games. Until next time, take care.